Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about questions at a new company. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, do you think it is a good question to ask a potential new company how they will try to onboard me on their project? Like if they have a plan or if they're just going to throw me into the fire. Yes, it's a good question to ask. I usually say to people that an interview is a two-way thing. I know that if you're a junior software developer or someone who's a little bit insecure and so forth, you don't look at it that way because, of course, the employer is the one with the money, etc., etc. And it's only when you get fairly secure, usually, in yourself where you realize that it's actually a two-way street. And you should always ask things that are relevant to your decision-making process. And if the company in question is not able to answer to your satisfaction or things like that, then it comes back to the thing that I've said a few times before. It's a seller's market in IT. You are more valuable than the company if you're a good software developer. A good software developer will not have an issue finding another job. A company will have to pay enormous amounts of money to get a good software developer, and in many cases they won't be able to find them. They will simply have to hire whoever is available. The top brass of programmers are in such high demand that the only people who are not trying to hire them are usually companies who are either ignorant or companies who have no clue whatsoever as to how difficult it is to find a person of that skill level. Most companies are hiring. Practically everybody is. It's just that different companies are at different levels in like their own IT transformation, and because most companies are going through an IT transformation today. So you should definitely ask these sorts of questions. The thing that I want to say though is that when it comes to onboarding and things like that, this is where it's pretty healthy for you. And I'm gonna say this whether you like it or not, because it's a hot issue for some people. Guys, you are a software developer, and speaking as somebody who's done this thing for a few years now and gone to more than a few companies, the reality is usually that the onboarding process is shit, because most companies are nowhere near as developed as they need. Like, I mean, if you're really lucky, and this is what I've said a few times as well, you get into a software team like with people who know things and you can ask questions from and stuff like that. If you work with senior coworkers, if you have a team around you, that is like the best thing that you could possibly do, especially as a junior. But even in these sorts of scenarios, it's actually really rare that somebody has taken the time to create a real onboarding process for you. A lot of the stuff is up to you to figure out, and the best quote-unquote onboarding processes, and it's sad that it is that way, but it's the way it is usually that you have people available that you can ask questions, because unfortunately very few software teams have the foresight to document things and to make create a good onboarding process, all of these sorts of things, because reasons. I never found this to be very difficult myself, but then again, I suppose, honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest, I think it has more to do with the same reason why the vast, what is it, 50% or something like that of humanity, or like the Western world at the very least, is grossly overweight. People are lazy, complacent, and they won't do anything that is not required of them to do. They have no foresight, no motivation to do anything but lazily do the thing that they feel is fun and enjoyable, and anything that requires a little bit of work they're just gonna skip if they can. And creating a good onboarding process falls under the category of doing that. It's right up there with working right to left and making sure that you do code reviews and writing unit tests and all that stuff. It's the same damn thing, same damn problem you have with your kids when they don't want, like when you have to force them to brush their teeth because it's not something they want to do and they don't want to, therefore it's not going to happen until unless you tell them. And that, in my experience, that never goes away. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or if you're 50. You're still the same lazy douchebag you were when you were 10 years old, on average, unless you are one of those titans of productivity and dependability, which, well, I suppose the closest thing that I've seen to that is the military. They have like a magic touch when it comes to training people to do things, not because they want to, but because it is important that they do that thing. And you're in for the same type of thing, right? And that's why I tell people that the unpopular, inconvenient truth is that as a software developer, you are alone, usually, even if you're working in a team. If you're lucky, as I said, you will have people who will answer your questions and like they will be supportive and try to help you and stuff like that. But on average, it's very much, in my opinion, as being in a jazz band or something like that. You may not actually be part of a group in the sense that like they feel committed to your success. It's really about you being able to fit in and doing a good job on your end together with all these other musicians, and then you can make some music together. And so that's why this personal development and actually trying to be the best that you can be and so forth is so important, because at the end of the day, most companies just look at you as someone who's going to produce code. It's that simple. Even in a product company, in many cases, the people don't think about these things, my friend. They don't prioritize this sort of stuff. If you're really lucky, you'll have like a company where they hire some people who try to make it nice and like onboard people and so forth, and they have some basic onboarding and so forth. But a lot of it is going to come down to your ability to track down the information somewhere, because honestly, documentation, especially at scale, is practically unheard of. The thing that is usually there in abundance is a jungle of Confluence documentation that nobody knows anything about and nobody can find shit in, but I mean, it's documented, it's all there. You just have to bring out a machete and start hacking away until you can find that information, and when you find it, it's probably also going to be outdated. So there you go. So what I want you to take away from this is that you should definitely ask about what the onboarding process looks at your company. Your red flags would be that, yeah, they don't really think about that stuff, or like, yeah, nobody probably is going to give you a good hint as to if they have an onboarding process that is worth anything or not, because most of them, like, that's the problem with onboarding processes. Like, how do you define a good one? Everybody has a different definition. The thing that you should do, though, is ask the question, because if nothing else, you just asking the question, assuming that you get the job, is probably going to put some type of memory trace, like a little data point in the memory of the person that you asked, and maybe they will remember that, yeah, it's probably good to have an onboarding process. If you are extraordinarily lucky, there will be some documentation, and usually the way that onboarding processes work is that there are people working there who have been working there for so long that they sort of know where things are. But in my experience, the best thing for you is to just focus on being a very good, independent, strong software developer, because this whole we're all a team and you can get help from people and so forth. Yes, sure, to a certain extent you can get help from people, but in many cases you're on your own. The thing that is going to serve you the best as a software developer is your ability to problem solve and work independently. Always prioritize that above all else. To the greatest extent possible. I mean, I'm not saying that you should be like a selfish douchebag and just think about yourself. It's more about being confident in that whichever environment you're being put in, you know sort of how to deal with it. You know how to find what you need. You know how to solve problems. Maybe not everything is perfect, but you can get it to work. If you can get to that point, that's a whole bunch better than trying to find a company where they're going to take really good care of you. Because at the end of the day, you should ask the question, but it's almost impossible for you to figure out if the company is going to have a good onboarding process or not. Have a great day.